Hello mateys, welcome to the channel. In today's video, it's a beginner tutorial. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about Silhouette Studio for beginners. So if you've just picked up your Cameo 4 or your portrait, this might be a great video for you. But first, if you're new here, my name is Kaylin and I upload art and craft videos, and I also do design tutorials. So if that's something that interests you, consider subscribing to my channel. I would really freaking appreciate it. With that being said, let's not get into the video because firstly, I want to say this is just a beginner focused video. I'm going to be talking about the basics of Silhouette Studio and what I think is important and what I think you should know. And I hope that you guys enjoy the video and I hope that you find it useful. With that being said, now let's get into the video. Okay, so I'm over in Silhouette Studio and the first thing that I'm going to do is change my preferences. So you can do this by going over here in the top left hand corner and clicking on Edit. And then you can go down to Preferences. And when we click on that, we will see that we can change our language. You can change how frequently you want Silhouette Studio to update and so on and so forth. So you can change your language in the General tab. And then you can also change the save location. You can save all your projects to your library. Or you can save it to your hard disk. And then we got unit of measurements. You can change it to centimeters, inches, whatever you're more comfortable with. And then we can, if we come down to print resolution, you can change your print resolution, which is really, really cool. If you're doing sublimation designs, then you can change the resolution of the print. In the display menu, this is where you can change your theme. So at the moment, I have the dark theme selected. I actually prefer that. I didn't know that you could actually change this until I did the video. So I learned something myself. And then you can also change the background color and you can change your button size, the animation, curve quality, etc. If we come over to the updates little tab here, you can check for updates weekly, daily, monthly, or never. I wouldn't advise to put this on never. You definitely want to have the latest updates of Silhouette Studio in order for your machine to work properly. Now I'm going to focus on these 4 tabs here in the top right hand side. And we've got Design, Store, Library, and Send. The 3 most important ones, or sorry, I should rather say the 3 that you will be using the most, in my opinion, are the Design, Library, and Send. So the Design tab is basically just your design or your canvas, and then if we come over to Store and we click on that, Silhouette Studio will take you to the web browser and it will take you to the Silhouette Design Store. Okay, so in the Design Store, you can purchase a whole bunch of SVGs. You can also purchase fonts and you can even find free SVGs as well. So Silhouette Studio has a lot of beautiful SVGs. I have purchased quite a few from the Design Store. So if you're ever looking for SVGs to just start with, Silhouette Design Store is a great option. Okay, back in Silhouette Studio, if we go over to the Library tab, this is basically where Silhouette Studio stores all of your files. Silhouette Studio will also store the files that you purchase from the Design Store in your library. Okay, and if we go over to the Send panel, this is the one that you will use every time you go to cut a design out on your machine. I'm just quickly going to switch my machine on so that I can show you the settings panel or the settings tab. Okay, so my machine is switched on. And if we come over to this little tab or drop down menu here, if we click on that, this is basically all of the materials that you can select that have been already set up. So if you were to cut out glitter cardstock, for example, you could just choose cardstock glitter and Silhouette Studio will populate the settings for you. When your machine comes out of the box, the blade is normally sharp. So you can just stick with the default settings, but over a while, once your blade starts wearing out, you might need to just change a few settings here and there. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the carriage, and I'm talking specifically about carriage 1. So if we have a look over here, this is your blade setting. This, I think, is how deep your blade is. And then we have the force, which you can also change, and then the speed, which you can also change. You might need to adjust this as you go to cut materials out on your Cameo, but I just used the default settings when I got my Cameo for the first time. If we come down here, you can always do a test cut before you cut a whole design on your material. The test cut is normally a little square with a triangle inside, if I'm not mistaken. So you can always just do a test cut if you're not too sure about the settings. If the test cut fails, then you know that you just need to adjust those settings. Okay, now I am going to move on to the features on the right hand side here. So we're going to start, I'm actually going to do the most important ones, or at least the ones that I feel I used quite a lot when I started out. So if I had to go through every single one of them, it will take a really long time. So I'm just going to go over the ones that I feel are essential. So we're going to start with this little icon here. It looks like a little A4 sheet with a little folded corner. And this is the page setup panel. So you can select your machine, cutting mat, and media size in this panel. And if you click on the drop-down menu, you can select which machine you have. If you click on the drop-down menu for the cutting mat, you can choose which cutting mat you're using. And if we click on the media size, you can change this to a letter, A4, A5, and so on and so forth. You can also customize your width and height of your page just by using these little sliders over here. And I use this setting when I'm doing matless projects. Or you can just select auto for all of the drop-down menus, and then Silhouette Studio will automatically adjust the settings. You can also change the orientation of your page, so you can select the portrait or landscape, and then you can also rotate your cutting mat, which I don't really use that often. I just leave it like that. We come down to the print border. You can click on this. This is more for printing projects, and then you will definitely need to have the cut border on so that you can see the boundaries of where your design needs to be. Moving on, I think the next one that I used quite often when I started out was the trace panel. So if we open the trace panel, you will see that it says select trace area, and basically you will trace over a design. So I'm quickly going to demonstrate that for you. So I'm going to click on File, and I'm going to click on Merge. The file is a little bit big, so I'm just going to size this down a little bit. Okay, and there is our heart. So this is a PNG image, and basically a PNG is an image that doesn't have a background. It's an abbreviation for portable network graphics. Okay, so let's just say that this was a JPEG. Normally you would have to trace over the image if it were a JPEG, because JPEGs typically don't have transparent backgrounds. But for the sake of the video, I'll just trace over this. Okay, so I am going to open up the trace panel, and then I'm going to click on select trace area. And by clicking and dragging, I'm going to trace over my design. and you'll know that it's traced over when it turns yellow. So I need to bump up the threshold a little bit so that everything in the design is yellow. And then I'm going to click on outline and I'm going to click on trace. And that is going to trace my image. So we can delete this one. And then we have our little heart that is ready to be cut out on our machine. All right, the next feature that I want to talk about is the transform panel. And I find myself using this quite a bit. So you can align things here horizontally and vertically. You can also space things out horizontally and vertically. You can also rotate your design to 90 degrees, 180 and 270. You can customize this as well. And you can rotate by 45 degrees, 90 degrees, 180 and so on and so forth. And you can also customize this. Whenever you do rotate your design, just remember to click apply so that Silhouette Studio saves that. Okay, then I'm going to come over to the fill panel. And when I click on that, you can fill your design with a pattern if you want to. The patterns can be found in this third little icon here. It says fill pattern. And you can choose a pattern that you want to fill your design with. And you can also print this out on your printer. I forgot to mention that some of these features might be grayed out for you, and that's just because I have Designer Edition of Silhouette Studio. When you're starting out, you will have the basic edition, but you can upgrade at a later stage should you choose to, but we will talk more about that later on in the video. Okay, moving on to the left-hand side here where all of our tools are. I'm just going to go over the essential tools. So the shape tool is pretty important. If you want to draw a circle, you can do that using the shape tools. And then the drawing or freehand tool is basically if you just want to draw a freehand shape. And then we've got our text tool, which is something that I use every single time I open up Silhouette Studio. And this basically just lets you type out text. And this way you can customize or personalize items. Next up, we have the eraser tool. This is pretty self-explanatory. You just erase whatever you don't want in your design. And then we have the knife tool, which lets you chop things in half. Okay, next up, I'm going to talk about these little icons on top here. So this one is just a new drawing, basically a new page. You can click on that and Silhouette Studio will create a new page for you. And you can open a file, you can save your project, and you can print your project. Next up is the undo and redo tools, which is something that I use quite often. The shortcut key for this is Control-Z on your keyboard, and this will let you undo. Say if you made a mistake, you can just undo it. If you want to redo whatever you did in your design, you can just click on the redo icon and Silhouette Studio will redo that for you. Over here, we have the zoom in and zoom out tools. That's also pretty self-explanatory. I'm just going to close this quickly. And then we have the pan tool, which is something that I actually use quite often. So for this, instead of clicking here the whole time, the shortcut would be spacebar. And then you can click and drag on your canvas and that will pan your canvas around. Next, we have the fit to window, and this is basically if you're a bit zoomed into something and you just want your canvas centered again, you can just click on the fit to window and Silhouette Studio will bring your canvas to the center again. All right, now I'm going to show you how to bring designs into Silhouette Studio. So let's just delete all of that. And then to bring designs into Silhouette Studio, there are two ways that you can do this, and each way is different. So if we come over to File and we click on Open, we can open up any design. I'm going to see if I cannot try to choose a smaller file. I get all my files from design bundles. They're absolutely amazing. So let's just use the boho rainbow. Okay, so my design is in Silhouette Studio. I'm just going to resize this so that it's not that big. Then I'm going to bring my canvas to the middle again. All right, so I have opened up my file in Silhouette Studio. That is one way that you can do it. But if you do it that way, Silhouette Studio is going to open up new tabs continuously. So if you don't want that to happen, all you need to do is click on File and then click on Merge, and then you can bring in another design, and that will prevent Silhouette Studio from opening a new tab. I use Merge quite a lot because I don't really need multiple tabs open all the time. So you can do this by choosing File, Open if you want to open a new document, or you can choose to merge it onto the same canvas. Now I'm going to come over to the Help drop-down menu, and we have a lot of options here. If you want to upgrade Silhouette Studio, you can do that within the Help tab. So if you go into your browser and you type in www.silhouetteamerica.com/software, you can get a comparison chart to see which version you'd like to download and which version is going to benefit you more. So if we come over here to upgrade, here are the prices. And then if we come over to Silhouette Studio feature comparisons, if we click on feature comparisons, this will bring up a comparisons chart, and you can see what the basic edition, designer edition plus, and the business edition have to offer. So I am going to be quite honest with you. When I first got my Cameo, I eventually upgraded to the designer edition of Silhouette Studio. But if I had to start over again, I'd probably just invest in the business edition, because lately I am finding that I need to export files as an SVG or a PDF, and I can't do that with designer edition. I would probably just get business edition. I know it's a little bit pricey, but it is worth the price tag. So Silhouette Studio doesn't have to be daunting to use. It's actually a very, very user-friendly program. It's probably one of the best softwares I've used. It's together up there with Illustrator and Photoshop. I really, really do enjoy using Silhouette Studio. I really want to thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my new subscribers. I really appreciate you. But I will see you in the next craft video. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.